About 8 months ago, I purchased my very first camera. The Sony A7C. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be one of those people on YouTube who professes to be an expert in everything or know something that you don't. In fact, I'm presuming most of you are like me. You're on YouTube trying to learn how to be a better filmmaker, how to be a better person even, and you might even be learning how were the pyramids built. And when I first started looking up on YouTube to pick up a camera as a complete beginner, and although I've had some experience working in production and film and TV, I've never actually held the camera, let alone had one. And then I watched video after video, whittling down what I thought was not just the best bang for buck camera for beginners, but a camera I could grow with. So I landed on the Sony A7C. And almost a year later, the Sony A7C has been everything I could have hoped for and more. Now, let me tell you why I think you should pick up this camera, and not just in 2022, but in 2023 and beyond. Let me get into it. Like I said, 8 months ago, I picked up this camera and I made my first YouTube review. And boy, what a naive noob I was. And there's, no shame in growth. This camera has taught me so much. And that's why I'm making this follow-up video and this channel in general is to help creators create. And this tool has been the spark that I needed to put down my video games and start making videos, to stop intaking content so much and start creating content. It's really been the mental health hack that I needed, but that's for another video. So let me first give you the main reason why you should pick up the Sony A7C, and I'll be peppering in a lot of B-roll from films I've shot to lens reviews and to photos and videos that I've taken and to some of these like talking head pieces. Which brings me to my first reason. This is a full frame do-it-all hybrid shooter. It takes as great pictures as it does video. And it's got this out-of-the-world autofocus. And all this for under $1,800. And I know that's a lot of money, but in this compact powerhouse, you really get a lot for that. So let me run down a few specs of the A7C before I get into the reasons why you should pick it up. It has a 24.2 megapixel camera. It's got 5 axis of in-body image stabilization. It's got 8-bit color for video, 14-bit RAW for photography. It's got a fully flip-out screen, which is great for vlogging. And it's got an updated autofocus and color science when compared to the A7 III. Now it's got a rangefinder style EVF, and I actually prefer this, and I get why some people don't. I love not having my nose smush when I'm looking into it. It seems more natural as a way to use the camera. Now the EVF is 2.4 million dots roughly, which again is more than good enough for me. I do wish the screen was a bit brighter, as I don't use the EVF as much as I use this. So it is difficult sometimes when it's sunny out. I do have a monitor that I attach sometimes as well, which has a sunshade, so that helps. I wish I didn't have to do the extra step. I have another video where I fully rigged this camera out, as I did in the intro of this video. And I got a lot of comments trying to own me about defeating the point of having a compact camera. However, what you can do is easily remove the cage and monitor, and so you have this versatile compact camera that you can also rig up. Now, I'm showing you this with the kit lens, something people try to dissuade other people from getting, and I don't know if I would get it again knowing what I do now. However, it was only roughly $200 extra in the bundle that I got it, so I would imagine this 28 to 60 f4 to 5.6 is probably more like a $400 lens, and you're saving just a little bit. Is it great? Do I use it that often? Not really. But this brings me to point number 2. You are buying into the full frame ecosystem of Sony and other third-party lens manufacturers, giving you tons of options for lenses. So I'm really just going to show you the A7C with this lens, but I've done tons of lens reviews, including the Rokinon 24 2.8, which is so small and capable. I usually put it on when I've got to just take this and go, and I want to make it as small as I possibly can. And inversely, I have the Rokinon 85 1.4, which is a beast, but it's great, it's cheap, it's super fast with autofocus. And speaking of, I've got the 7 Artisans 35.95, which is an APS-C lens that roughly comes out to 51.2 or something like that. And that is a great manual focus lens. It's so dreamy and really artistic to have something like that on here. It looks beautiful. But for me, the best do-it-all prime is the G lens, the 20 f1.8. So I have not done a dedicated lens review for this one yet, but as the kids would say, let me know in the comments below if you want me to do one. I may or I may not. But I'm hardly the first person to say that this is the best bang for buck lens on the best bang for buck camera. And I swear that's the last time I'm gonna say bang for buck, except for the one that I just said it in. But everybody sort of talks about this being the perfect combination, and that's what led me to buy this, and it certainly is. So if you're looking for one prime to do it all, I would say pick up this one. I know it's a bit wide, but for my uses, it's great for vlogging and talking headpieces. So before I give you my final reason as to why you should pick up this camera, if you're at all interested in buying it and you're watching this video because you want to know if you should, let me give you the cons so you know. Number 1, as I've already said, the EVF. Some people hate it, I don't, I just thought you should know. So number 2, there's no redundant recording. There's no dual card slots, just one card. So if you're a wedding videographer or photographer and you're recording a once-in-a-lifetime moment, you probably want a different camera, and this may not be for you. So I think that's fair that you should know that's an issue. I've never had a problem with the memory card recording or any issue like that. Now for number 3 as a con, in 4K you are limited to 30, and there's no 120 frames per second, there is no 60 frames per second cropped or uncropped. And if that is an issue for you, that is something you should know. I would say then just pick up the A7 IV. But I am hardly ever using 60. I know some people, again, I think most of the wedding videographers use that a lot. Again, I don't do that. If I do some slow shots, it's usually at 120 frames, and the 1080 on this is fantastic. If I wanted that in 4K, of course, I would get the FX3 or the A7S3, but that doesn't give you that options. But in most situations, you can't tell whether or not I'm using 4K or 1080, especially on YouTube with its compression. And like those other cameras, this is only 8-bit of color and video. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Vimeo, you're probably not going to notice that difference either. So is this a suitable camera for making a proper movie? Well, no and yes. I guess that all depends on if you could screen something shot in the Sony A7C in a theater blown up and it was well lit. Could you notice the difference? I would say probably not. And maybe some people who could pixel peak, but I think if it's well lit, well colored, you're not going to notice a difference. However, if you were going to do that, I would rent a different camera. I would at least have the FX3. And even then, if you think about it, it is not a Netflix approved camera, the FX3 or the A7S3, even though the sensor is approved in the FX6. But because there's other reasons why a camera can be called cinema according to Netflix, it has usually nothing to do with the sensor and image itself. It's how it's recorded and transcoded and all those, and time code, everything like that. So if you were really going to make a short film or you want to pitch a film to Netflix and you were at that level, you're probably not going to pick up this camera to begin with. You can always rent another camera. You could rent the FX6 and you'd probably know how to use that camera by using this one. But again, the 4K, due to its downsampling, the quality is amazing. And I don't blow it up and put it on a screen as most people don't. I just put it on YouTube or Vimeo like anybody else, and the compression usually ruins it to begin with. So most people can't see how great the quality is, or some people are watching it on their phone at 480p, and they're not, even though you've uploaded it at 4K, they don't even watch it in that. But that's just in video. In photography, these raw files are amazing, and you could blow them up in a professional setting. Anyways, most people are sharing the JPEGs on social media, so that isn't even an issue. But you could blow these up, you could use these in a professional setting. But professional, quote unquote, is a standard based on what people are willing to pay you, right? And to me, that's based on how creative you are and how well you can market yourself, not really dependent on the camera itself. So I'm filming this now on the Sony ZV1, and it's a 1-inch sensor, and you could make and sell art on this, but there is a ceiling to what you can do. Whereas with the Sony A7C, the full frame, the only ceiling as to what you can create and sell is really up to you, and it's not up to the camera. And for a beginner like myself, that's both exciting and scary, because the only person that you can credit for your success or blame for your failures is you. So thank you for your time and attention, and if you found this useful, please like and consider subscribing. It helps me out way more than you. Okay, love you guys.